Thank you, Dr. Fynes. I'm going to request Surendra Borad Patawari, who is the convener of the Anuvrat International Conference, to come up on stage and to actually do what we talked about doing yesterday, which is to work towards the declaration at the end of the conference, so that there is something tangible, so that we are not just left with speaking, so that we follow the Pragya concept of action. And, well, I hand over to Mr. Patawari.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would not take the stage. We need to make the conference more informal. How do we make a difference? There are conferences all over the world. You hear so many times, I think every month you have some conferences. How do we make this conference different than the others? This is what we have to think. The speakers would come, panelists would discuss. We need to come to some quantifiable propositions. Yesterday in my inaugural presentation, I pointed out specifically that there must be something quantifiable. And unfortunately, incidentally, this subject is so esoteric, so specific, that it's difficult to have a quantifiable things. But still, I tried to make some quantifications. We are holding this conference on a platform of Therapant. Now, those of you who have come far away from different parts of the world, you might be wondering what's the contribution the Therapant community is going to do. This is the first foremost. We have to start from our home. Acharya Muni, he referred quite often in his presentation, in his speech, there have to be some actions. And what are the actions we are contemplating? This is what I'm going to tell you. I would not take long because yesterday it was an introductory day. We met physically, we introduced each other, we came to know who is going to do what. Today there has to be interaction of minds. We have to discuss more. I wish we had less presentations, more discussions. And that's the theme of the conference, but fortunately, unfortunately, incidentally, there keeps on coming something else. We learn something from this conference to be better in the next conference. Now, the contribution of Therapant community. I'm a very proud member of Therapant community. We felt everybody can make a contribution. The numbers are not so important, but considering the importance, it's possible to have a higher number. And our idea is to have 11,000 Therapant people to take vows, to collect vows during the course of the next year that they would not cut trees, they would not waste water, they would not throw away the books from their children. They would pass it on from the first one to the second one. They would not sell the books. These are simple things, but I'm trying to put the ball rolling, the kind of declaration which we should be thinking. Maybe they are not significant, maybe they are not so important, but like the Anuvrat, every vrat is very important, however significant, however small it is. So this is the community commitment that 11,000 people, it could be more, it could be substantially more, they would take vows and we would collect in the course of next year, and all of you delegates who have come over, we will send out the message that these are the people who have taken these small vows, very small vows. I repeat, they would not cut trees, they would pass on the books, they would not sell these books to those people who probably recycle them, but reuse is better than recycling on the recycling hierarchy. So this is our commitment, and the purpose of my standing here is that let's discuss more, let's have more interaction during the networking, during the lunch hours, during the coffee breaks, how we can make a difference. This is a small thing which I wanted to put across to all of you, and now we move to the question and answer. Thank you.
Couple of minutes more before we head out to the question answer session. I'd like to request Siddh Muni to say a few words.
Probably the youngest participant.
I pay my obeisance to the shining sun in the spiritual sky, Param Pujya Acharya Shri Mahashramanji.
Voice.
I even pay my homage to most reverend Muni Shri Mahendra Kumar Swami. I would like to share my feeling in a precise form. Everyone hears to what you speak. Everyone hears to what you speak, but friends listen to what you speak. But best friends listen to what you don't speak. So, in my case, the thing I'm speaking, I want you to understand the thing which I don't speak. So, I don't need to give a big lecture. As I'm not a lecturer, I can't present like these lecturers, but I want you to understand the thing which I don't speak. So, I even believe this, that you are not just my friends, but my best friends, and you will understand which I don't speak. So at last, I just want to say a small thing to you, that I hope that you will understand my feelings and try and discover. Om Arham.
Om Arham. And now I'd like to request Jagrit Muni also to say a few words, please.
I pay my obeisance to Acharya Shri Mahashramanji and my homage to Muni Shri Mahendra Kumar Swami. Various participants has came from various countries due to the Anuvrat Samiti. As Muni Shri told that Anuvrat is the nucleus of the atom. So, keeping together is the beginning. As we have all come together, so it is the beginning of the conference. But it is not the success. So, how I will prove that the conference is successful? The conference by many people who were present here. So I can say that keeping together is progress. First I said coming together is the beginning, keeping together is progress. As the nucleus has the bonding power, attraction power, due to which the electrons are bonded with the nucleus. So thus the Anuvrat does. At the end, but not at the least, interactions which were made here help us to come together and work together with each other with open-mindedness. So, at the least, I will say that working together is success. As the electrons which are moving around the nucleus move harmoniously. Because if they will not move harmoniously, the atom will become unstable, as does the world. If we will not work with harmoniously, the world will become unstable. So, I will like to request you to take an oath that we will work together with Anuvrat at the end of the stage for the peace of the world. So I will like to stop my speech.
And now while you've got your hands up, how about keeping some of them up? Question answer time. Who'd like to ask a question? Yes, sir.
My My question is to Dr. Fynes. In your presentation, you have just mentioned about Acharanga Sutra. And very elaborately, you talked about knowing the self as also the world. My question to you is, epistome is very important aspect of what in genealogy we call Ratnatraya. But only knowledge and an expert knowledge at that, is that sufficient, or conduct, does that also find a place in your presentation? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. I think the idea is that knowledge informs conduct. It's not a kind of knowledge which sits in an ivory tower. It's knowledge. Knowledge, to be right knowledge, would inform conduct. The two things are not separate. This is what the Acharanga Sutra is all about. The right knowledge informs the conduct. So it's not just a matter of knowing, it's a matter of doing also, and it's a matter of living an ascetic life. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, but you know, as far as my understanding goes, the three aspects of, you know, the path to reach to the trance is the what we call Gyan, Darshan, Charitra. That means to have the faith on it, to have knowledge,
yes,
and of course the conduct.
Yes.
What you know, I was trying to ask you is, the knowledge aspect is certainly important, because if you have no knowledge, you don't know what to do. But the importance of conduct, that cannot be secondary to the level of knowledge. Of course, it can have a layer of knowing the things at the right stage. But then the conduct also will have equal, if not, you know, more. Because, you know, I will take you to the yesterday's presentation by Acharya Gurudev, and he said, action is very important. Yeah. And action is nothing, in my mind, other than the conduct. So, you know, conduct, I think, is, you know, is not secondary to knowledge. That's all. I wanted your opinion on that. Yeah. Thank you.
I entirely agree with you. I entirely agree with your point. I mean, I didn't mean to overemphasize knowledge at the expense of conduct. I mean, conduct is supremely important. I agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, moving back a little bit. Yes, Professor.
May I?
We'll come back to the front after we... Please.
Yeah, Christoph Stückelberger, thank you so much for these presentations. I would like to make a link between this spirituality that you mentioned and the action, the call for action also of Surendra, which is very important. And the concept of the sharing economy could be linked to the circular economy that we discuss here. I explain. Today, and I just read an article showing this growing, fast-growing movement of what is called sharing economy, means not selling. It's becoming a very broad movement. You share your car, you share your guest room in your apartment, you share mobile devices, and so on and so on. It's linked to the social media also. And what this vow could be linked probably with that. And there is a conceptual issue behind, of course. How can we, in a market economy, have a sharing economy which is somehow conflicting with selling and making money, which is not bad, which is necessary. So if we could reflect on that, so to broaden these vows beyond, so to say, the small-scale sharing and interesting people which are already in this sharing attitude or readiness somehow, and link it then to this very profound spiritual roots which are needed behind this sharing mode. So just as a topic of maybe discussion for the next 1.5 days, if we could discuss that, how to broaden and bring it to action. Thank you.
Great.
In Buddhism, actually, there are 3 basic points. One is everything is change, and the other is no self, in fact. So, as a monk, Buddhist monk, we vowed as a precept, no possessions. So we share all community. In a temple or monastery, it's very difficult to understand in the world. Anyway, so that's why in Bodhisattva's understanding of all beings, we are one. I already mentioned several times. So in that case, the sharing is not between I and the others, but actually in a reality, we are one from the point of the enlightenment. So that's why the Buddhism emphasized wisdom and compassion. Wisdom means to know the reality. Compassion means to actualize. So we act or conduct with others or in the society. How we can make the people understand actually we are one, not selfish or egoistic and just capitalistic, just to get more and spend more. But if we think everything belongs to us, then maybe we can concern about others, sharing others, not spend much or ignore others. So I think as I mentioned, it's a different expression, different religious tradition, but in the highest understanding, no matter maybe, I think the Buddhism and the Jainism is most close among religions. So I think compassion means come, and passion. Passion is our the essential, the understanding. So compassion, get together, feel together, share together. So someone's suffering is not someone's only, but it's the suffering or pain, and my pleasure or joy also to share, and also others shows. So think about that. It's more communal, more just not even the living beings, even non-living beings. So from the enlightened one, Buddha simply means one who attained enlightenment. It knows I or we and all cosmos, universe is one. So even that's why the environmental issues, destruction of environment is destroy ourselves. So we feel all the suffering or destruction or depression of all the environment as our body is Sun's key point. So I mentioned the practice meditation is to see the reality, to nature. So sun or Dhyan is the same. So what is the reality? What is the nature? Maybe it's common. So I mean, just all people, no matter what the tradition, but like we can use the metaphor, to climb up the mountain at the peak, we get together. So try to their own doctrinal practice or meditative practice sincerely. Then eventually we get together so we can share the wisdom and we realize we are one, even in the living beings, but also the all non-living, non-sentient beings. It means the whole universe. So we just only attach only ego or oneself, but we can extend ourselves as a whole universe. That's my point. So sharing is maybe very practical, very essential in our the present. But to see the reality, it's help others. It's not help others. It's help ourselves. And self and others, one is a so-called non-dual understanding and approach to act. Thank you.
My reference is to Miss Claudia Pastorino. In fact, I was very much impressed from what she has narrated about her own life from the childhood, as I understood, by instinct only. Born in a family in the environment of non-vegetarians, she somehow or other could not adjust her life to that, and she insisted to be vegetarian. And that is the first step towards, I would say, Anuvrat, as I say. I would just like to know from her whether your commitment instinct has made an impact on the surroundings of your living, on the society in which you are living, and whether you have proceeded further in further small vows of Anuvrat to make it an ideal life.
Queste norme di non mangiare carne anche importante per la vostra società vicino dei vostri amici e gli altri, è importante solo per lei.
I try in English and if I need your help. In my life, the vegetarian choice was at the first time something very different respect the habitudes of family, society, friends, etc. And they saw at me really like a strange young girl, as I told before. But then I have seen during the time, the years passing, that my mother, for example, many friends, many students of mine was inspired, and they went to do a reflection, and they condividere, come si dice, agree, and at the end also them choose this path. The greatest example for me is my mother, because really 30 years ago she wasn't happy about my path, my choice. But now she's an example for me, for the ambient around us. She became really an example also for me, for her compassion, for her comportamento, behavior as at today. So I think that the example, the witnessing is so inspiring.
Thank you.
Thank you to you.
Well, I think I take your time in between, and this is especially out of the way to compliment my volunteers. I was wondering why they have taken the services of an interpreter, an Italian interpreter. We don't have so many Italian delegates, but look, here comes the detail. And I thank you and I compliment all my volunteers here. I'd like to say hi, hello to them. They have done a great job even to take care of these small things. And I suppose the Samaj accepts and recognizes their interest and intelligence. Thank you.
In the series of questions, I like the design of questions too, as they are very organized. So we see one by one, all the speakers are being questioned. And now my question is to Muni Shri. As he talks and he gives impetus to the cultivation of wisdom and to bring about the transformation in the society, I will like to question that what are the measures, the practical and pragmatic measures that we can implement in our life to bring about a change in the world order by implementation, inculcation of the wisdom. So what is wisdom and how we can cultivate it in our life is to be known.
The answer in short is that in order to put into action our knowledge, wisdom can be developed by training, proper training with the knowledge. The present education system only revolves around knowledge and information, but does not take care or does not take into account the training part of it. A child is just advised not to speak a lie. That's all. Now knowledge is given to him, but when the occasion arises, he will not speak a lie. This kind of training is necessary together with the knowledge. We want that the environment should not be disturbed. The ecological balance should not be disturbed. Knowledge we have got, but for putting that knowledge into action, we have to impart right training. In nutshell, we can say that wherever there are institutions or the centers for disseminating knowledge, there should be the training process, the training institute at all levels. Unless this is done, then the knowledge remains knowledge and the conduct does not improve. So in short, we should know that the training is the only process through which we can change, bring about the change. What we call is a change in the heart, what we call is the transformation. For that training is required. We can see in an example, we know that in the circus, the wild animals are brought from the jungle. Now, if they are brought from the jungle and on the first day, if they will be brought on the stage, is it possible? No. Why? They are not trained. First, they have to undergo training. They are tamed down. They have to give up that bestial, violent nature. By training, that is possible. And after the training, then they are brought on the stage. And they can perform many feats and entertain the audience with their things, which becomes a wonderful thing. So in the same way, if these wild animals can be trained by proper training, then why not human beings? We have to evolve the means and methods how to train, and that also will be only possible or only successful if the trainers themselves are trained. So this is a chain. We have to create a chain of trainers through the trainers who train themselves, then the trainers train the trainers, then the trainers train others like this. In this way, and this is exactly what was given by Acharya Sri Mahapragya in Science of Living, that is complete training program should be given or should be imparted, should be implemented together with the education. And that is what through Science of Living, through training in non-violence, all these programs are conducted to bring the training in the mainstream of knowledge and the institutions, and we can get the desired results. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Om Arham. And now our last question for this session, I'd like to hand over to Samniji.
This question is, I want to know the interpretation of Dr. Richard in his presentation when he said, he has quoted Acharang that one who denies the world denies the self. I want to know your interpretation or understanding that whether you consider this proposition to be an egocentric or anthropocentric, biocentric, or egocentric come biocentric, or is it a tautological statement? I want to know your interpretation.
I'm taking time to, excuse me, I'm taking time to think about that. Do I consider it? I think I'm going to give a short answer. No.
Well, I think that might have been an answer prompted by a desire to have a quick cup of tea. So let us head that way and all, get going to get ourselves re-energized. And as we were told by Muni Mahendra ji, that we have to train ourselves, and then the trainers train the trainers. So let's train ourselves to be back in 20 minutes. So that's 11:35. Thank you for a lovely morning session. Thank you to our speakers.